Well, I live in New York City, but I'm originally from Western North Carolina. That's where I'm from, and that's where my parents still live. My parents are still alive. They refuse to die. My mother, listen to this, my mother is 96 and my father is 98. Right? Yeah, and we just got them, they just moved into assisted living in May. But that means they were living independently up until then, but they have mobility issues and it was time. So they're where they belong and everything's going great. But this is what happened, I swear to God. The assisted living people called up me and my sisters and they said, okay, we have a place for your mom and your dad, but there's a gentleman there and we have to wait for him to die. And we found ourselves calling them like every week going, is he dead? And then at the end of the month, I swear to you, they called us and said, congratulations, he's dead. But my dad still has all of his marbles. This is what's the most fun thing. And he's always playing cards with these old men. And they're always, he'll call me up and he'll say, I got a joke you can use in your skit. That's what this is, a skit, right? And he calls me up this week, and you have to picture this coming out of the mouth of a 98-year-old, okay? So there's this man, he went fishing at a lake in the woods, and a bear came out and sexually assaulted him. And then the next weekend, he went to another part of the lake, and the bear came out and sexually assaulted him. And then the third week, he went to another part of the lake, and the bear came out and said, you're not really here for the fishing, are you? You know, my dad uses interesting phrases, like he won't say, that girl's stupid. He'll say, well, clearly her ancestors did not rotate the crops. Oh, listen, I could do an entire show on nothing but my family. I have a cousin who's deaf, and he also has one arm shorter than the other, so when he speaks sign language, it's with an accent. I have this aunt, one time she said to me, Jim, last year your uncle and I went on a trip around the world. This year we're going to go somewhere else. And my mother, you know, if it was up to her, I wouldn't have a career. Because she's a very conservative Southern Christian lady, and she gets offended at everything. And like one time, I did an adult show where I was cursing, and after the show she said, I don't know how you can get up on that stage in front of all those nice people and use those words. I said, Mom, that's the way people talk. She said, people vomit, I wouldn't pay to see it. And then my dad said, oh, for God's sake, Ethelene, he's a comedian, not a preacher. Lord have mercy on a popsicle stick. You are more exasperating than E. coli bacteria. If you were in my gay AA group, we'd take you out and get you drunk. Did you hear what I almost said, my gay AA group? That's what came out, you know, oh well. But this is how quick my father is. Preface, I sleep naked. I've always slept naked. It's not as exciting as it sounds. When I'm naked, I look like a freshly born sparrow. But anyway, I was asleep on one of these ships a year ago. And I woke up at 3 in the morning to go to the bathroom, right? And you know how you are at 3 in the morning. And you know how these rooms are configured? Well, that night, instead of walking into the bathroom, I just walked out in the hall. And the door slammed shut behind me. And I woke up and I went, what the hell? And I was standing outside of the room naked and the door was locked. What am I going to do? And I saw a room service tray, right? And I ran over and I picked up the cover of the plate and I put it here. And then I went, what? No, it's clear. So I found a napkin on the tray, and so I covered myself with a napkin, and I ran down to the elevator where there was a phone right by the elevator, and I called security, and I said, listen, you have to come let me into 3608. I'm naked in the hall. And the guy said, we know, we see you. And when he got to the door in like 20 seconds. And when he got to the door, he said to me, are you sure this is your room? And I thought, oh, no, I'm just going around room to room, going into the room and going, boo! You didn't sign up for this excursion, did you? got home, I called my dad and told him what happened, and without a beat, he said, "You mean you can cover it up with just a napkin?" But my mother takes everything very literally. Like, I like to play games like, if you could go back in time and watch one thing happen, what would it be? Or if you could have any figure in history over at a dinner, who would that be? I play this game. I'll play it with you since you're right here. What's your name?
Dawn.
Okay, this is easy. You're in prison. And they're about to execute you. What would your last meal be? Right off the top of your head. Steak. That was easy, right? I said to my mother, "Okay, Mom, what would your last meal be? You're in prison, they're going to kill you. What would your last meal be?" She said, "Well, what would I be in prison for? What did I do?" I said, "Well, Mother, it's totally hypothetical. What would your last meal be?" She said, "Well, I'd be too upset to eat. And then after they killed me, I'd have a movement." And this is the funniest thing. I had a grandmother, it was an old-fashioned Southern grandmother, and she would come over, and I'm 10 years old, and the first thing she says to me, "Did you have a good movement today?" You need to have a good movement, because your movement is the most important part of your day. And I thought, God, if I ever get to the point where my movement is the most important part of my day, just put a bullet through my brain. Or put me on a ship. Why is that funny? I don't understand why that's funny. Everybody laughs at that. Is anybody here from the southern part of America? Anybody? Yeah, you're from Alabama, I got that. Where are you from?
Louisiana.
Louisiana. Oh, okay. Well, you know, I live in New York City, and it's totally different up there. Like, you ask directions in New York, you say, "Excuse me, where's the hospital? What, are you sick?" Down where we're from, right? "Excuse me, where's the hospital?" "Well, you're going to get in the car. And you're going to drive about 45 or 50. How far? Earl. How far is he going to go?" "To the hospital." "The hospital. About 45 minutes down to where the water tower used to be. Then you're going to turn left or right?" "Earl." "Well, ask your wife. Pearl. Would you hurry up? He's bleeding." "I don't know what happened to him." "What happened to you?" "He got stabbed." "Stabbed? You did? I'd go to the hospital if I were you." I'm in a silly mood. I feel like I've done a drug. Do I seem like that? But the only time I ever did LSD, I was at Disney World. I didn't go there. It came to me. I was Snow White. I was the one at the party that got sent to the 7-Eleven to pick out the munchies. So after about an hour of walking around the store, I ended up at the counter with a can of peaches and a Jetsons coloring book. And then I said to the guy, "Will there be anything else?" He said, "Yeah, get off the counter." But I've performed all over the world. I've been doing comedy for 39 years. Phil's been doing it just about as long as I have, or maybe. Have you been, Phil, are you still here?
Yeah.
Have you been doing it longer than 39?
No.
No? Okay. Well, you know what? There's a bunch of us, folks, that are not necessarily famous, but we've managed to make a great living doing this. And working at clubs, colleges, corporate events, cruise ships, casinos, country clubs, and the Catskills. The 7 C's of comedy. And you never, and listen, Phil and I have played to all kinds of audiences, and cruise audiences are some of the best, because you're here, you're on vacation, you're ready to be entertained, and the age is from 18 to 90. And you never know. It is, it's from 18 to 90, or 95. I had a 97-year-old guy. I had a 100-year-old man who was here last week with his grandson. Yeah, 100 years old, right? He said, a few things you said were funny. You know, they tell you the truth. You know, a few things I laughed at. You never know what the audience is going to do. One night I was on stage in New York. This woman sitting right up front looks at me and she screams, "Oh, I've seen him. He's not funny." Think about it. That's like somebody you've never seen in your entire life coming up down the street and going, "I've seen you. You ugly. You are so ugly, Jeffrey Dahmer look at you and say, I'm not hungry. See, because he ate people. He was a serial killer. You're staring at me like I'm the automatic ball return at the bowling alley. Oh, God. Phil was talking about Viagra, wasn't he? I tried the Viagra. I did. It would have been great if somebody had been there, but I had a really good time. But I've got to get that cat declawed. That's all I have to say about it. But you know what? It's a real honor and a pleasure to get to work on these ships because I've been all over the world. I was in the Galapagos Islands off the coast of Ecuador. Has anybody ever been there? It's a bucket list item. They have all these animals that only exist in the Galapagos, right? And I saw there were these giant tortoises that were this big, right? And one of them was on top of the other one, and it was going, it was the most horrifying thing I've ever seen. I videotaped it. But I said to the guide, I said, what is going on with these tortoises? And he says, oh, they're stupid. They're trying to mate with each other, but they're both male. And I said, what are these tortoises, gay? He said, no, no, no. You see, that one, he is impotent. You see, they masturbated him, and they found out he don't produce no semen. Whose job is this? Honey, you're gonna be late for work. I don't want to go in today. I have to masturbate the tortoise. God, I hate Mondays. I called my dad after that and I said, Dad, I'm in the Galapagos Islands and I just got a demonstration of masturbating a giant tortoise. And my dad said, you know, I could have gone all day without hearing that. But you know what? You know what's also a pleasure of working on the ships is that there's all kinds of different people from all over the world. And that's what's great about living in New York, where I live. There's all kinds of different people from all over the world, and we just have to deal with it, right? Yeah. But everybody can deal with it. I mean, even the beggars that come up to you on the street or the subway, this is how they deal with it, right? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very sorry to bother you, but if you could spare a little change, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Good night. Buenos tardes, damas y caballeros. Perdonen la molestia, pero si puede darme un poco de cambio lo aprecio. Muchas gracias. Adios. Bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs. Je regrette que vous dérangez, mais si vous pouvez me donner un peu d'argent, je serai très heureux. Merci, merci. Au revoir. Guten Tag, meine Damen und Herren. Entschuldigen Sie bitte, aber hätten Sie vielleicht für mich ein paar Minuten. Ich wäre Ihnen sehr dankbar. Chintao me da cosa. Prima capcuon sawadikra. Bababa bod ma chakwao.